It's here. 18 teams and coaches converge on Indianapolis today for Big Ten Media Days in the next several days. 18 is a big number. How much bigger will the Big Ten get? Plus, we'll tell you what to expect from Media Days. It's all right here. It's action packed. You can feel the season coming. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and thrilled to talk Big Ten with you. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com and get started. So how big is the Big Ten going to get? We're welcoming 4 teams right now as it is. We'll take a look at the Big Ten Media Days agenda and some interesting things for you to follow along with, plus Tuesday tweets. Did you make our list? You can tell the season's coming by the tone of these tweets coming up. But the Big Ten right now, it grows to 18 as we welcome USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington to the annual Big Ten Media Days in Indianapolis. It's only natural to wonder out loud just how big the Big Ten will get and how soon it will grow again, because you and I both know it's happening. It's just a matter of when and who it would include. It's a favorite topic here on Locked On Big Ten. In the long term, we've talked about a super conference with 20, 24, maybe 30 teams someday. Perhaps Commissioner Tony Petitti will give some clues, or even better, how about some answers to these questions during his State of the Conference address today. But as we told you yesterday, don't hold your breath, because he'll probably give a similar answer that we got from the commissioner of the SEC last week with their media days. And they're all saying, hey, we're happy with the teams we have. We're going to focus with the teams we have. We're good to go. They'll say publicly not looking to expand because they don't want to appear like they're poaching and destroying other conferences. But you and I know ultimately that's what will happen. But we all know full well that everything can change in like a day's time as well. And given the opportunity, of course, if something were to break in the ACC, for example, if it blows up, good schools looking for a more lucrative conference home, hypothetically, then we got something. And that's what we're keeping an eye on here. In the medium term, that was the long term. In the medium term, we've reminded you that August 15th is the deadline. It's looming for all ACC schools that may be thinking about leaving the conference in time for the 2025 football season. That would be a quick turnaround. It'd be a rush, but that's the deadline that we're looking at. If we get through August 15th and nothing happens, we'll be status quo for one more year after this one. If not, some teams may be looking for somewhere else to play in 2025. But a formal announcement must be given by August 15th. Now, in the short term, we did the long term, the medium term. Now here's the short term. We like to focus on Florida State and Clemson because they are currently embroiled in separate lawsuits and counter lawsuits in an attempt to get out of the ACC and its horrendous long-term media rights deal. Although in yesterday's podcast, we took a look at the viability of other ACC schools other than Florida State and Clemson, like North Carolina. We really kind of focused on them yesterday and whether they would be viable in the Big Ten. If you missed that podcast, by the way, go back and check it out. All of our podcasts are right on our website, talkbig10.com. That's talkbig10.com. In fact, let me put the banner on the bottom if you're watching on video so that you can have that with you there on the bottom of the screen there. TalkBig10, 10.com. But back to Florida State and Clemson for a minute. There's more immediate news, actually. So on Monday, ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips, he said that the league would fight back, quote, for as long as it takes against Florida State and Clemson in their bids to leave the ACC. And he reiterated that the ACC is bigger than any one, or in this case, two schools who may be attempting to flee. However, one cannot deny that Florida State and Clemson are indeed the premier marquee schools for that conference. And if they were to find themselves leaving the conference, it'd be a death blow for the ACC. Now, Phillips also said at this ACC kickoff, this is their version of their Big Ten media days, if you will, that he's confident that the ACC will remain a premier conference in college athletics for the long term. And then he kind of chided his two premier schools in Florida State and Clemson. He said, since those schools eagerly signed that controversial grant of rights deal when it was presented, the conference deserves better right now than what they're getting from these two schools fighting them in court. Florida State doesn't see it that way. In their lawsuit, they're contending, quote unquote, chronic fiduciary mismanagement and bad faith. Those are a lot of big words, unquote. Here's an example. Former ACC Commissioner John Swofford, he was the previous commissioner there. He included Raycom, a regional sports network based in the Carolinas. They were a struggling sports network, and he included them in the grant of rights media deal. And without ACC programming, they would have folded right away. Here's the rub: Swofford, the commissioner, the former commissioner, his son Chad Swofford worked for Raycom, and at the time, and then later became the general manager and vice president of Raycom. That might be construed as fiduciary mismanagement, to be honest with you. Maybe even nepotism. What do you think? I think that is where this whole thing pivots in court, and the argument that Florida State is making for signing up for this bad media rights deal. Anyway, we'll see how it plays out in court and or settlement. Settlement will get this done faster, sooner than later, and then we could talk about teams moving around in realignment. Otherwise, if it's in court, it will drag on for a long time. As you heard Phillips say, he's going to fight tooth and nail for as long as he can. And he's going to try and force these schools who don't want to be there, force them to stay. So that's where we're at as of today. Look, if you are a regular, if you are an everydayer on Locked On Big Ten, you know our feeling on this. If you're brand new, if you're just discovering us, if you're one of the new four schools, a fan of Oregon or Washington or USC or UCLA, and you've just found us because the Big Ten media days are in the news and we're here. We came up on your feed. Welcome aboard. But our theory here is we think that the ACC eventually collapses after one or two of these schools leaves, or maybe even more, and that the Big Ten and the SEC are there to pick up the pieces. The Big 12 is on standby, but if they don't land a couple of these schools, the Big 12 is going to be the next ACC and blow up. And they won't be any better off than the ACC. They will become irrelevant as well. Well, ultimately, we see two super conferences, Big Ten and SEC. Kind of like AFC and NFC, probably have their own championship someday. I mean, we're really going down the line, but we're giving you a peek into what we talk about on a regular basis here on Locked On Big Ten. So we appreciate you checking us out. But look, under this particular scenario, if we go super, if we go all out, I asked you the question at the beginning of this podcast, how big will it grow? Now that we're up to 18 teams here in the Big Ten. It could get to as many as 30. This would be like if everything falls into place, ACC blows up, Big 12 just kind of there, or maybe even not there. I think the Big Ten and the SEC could grow to as many as 30 teams each if we're going to get to a true super conference scenario someday. Okay, and that's if everything falls a certain way. If only some things fall a certain way, maybe it's just the ACC that gets watered down. Big 12 kind of hangs around. Maybe the Big 10 settles in at about 24 teams. Could see that, certainly. I think that's almost a certainty someday. 30 may be too much. We'll see. But 24, I think that's going to happen eventually. And by the way, with 24, that does include Notre Dame. Again, Notre Damers want to put their heads in the sand. But I think ultimately, in order to pay some of the revenue sharing, that they're going to have to come up with $22 million a year in addition to all other expenses to pay players. I think Notre Dame will have to be in a lucrative conference to pick up some extra money. And with the relationship to the Big Ten and NBC and all that already, it'd be very easy to do. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. They don't admit it. In fact, I'll get texts and comments here, people screaming at me about it, but that's my vision. That's what's going to happen, I think. We've thoroughly documented all that in the past. Feel free to check out all of our past podcasts. We put them all on our website, Talk Big 10. That's the number 10. Don't spell it out. TalkBig10.com. Go there. Check out all of our podcasts. They're chronological order, and they're also grouped by your favorite schools as well. While you are there, get yourself some swag for the Big Ten. You see all these pennants on the wall, shirts, hats, all the stuff you want. It's right there. Plus, you want some ticket information. I'm going to get some tickets and go to a Big Ten game. All that information is right there. TalkBig10, number 10.com. So check that out at your leisure. Be glad to have you snooping around there for sure. Be sure to subscribe too. If you haven't yet, you like what you see here, subscribe. We're making our big push to 10,000 subscribers. We took over this channel last year, a little more than a year ago. We had 1,200. We've blown past 9,000. Our push to 10,000. Our goal is to get 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. If you watch on YouTube every day before the start of the upcoming football season, I think we're going to get it. So all that's there. Subscribe and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. If you are an audio only listener, that audio version on your favorite podcast app comes out at 4 a.m. and it's there for you at your leisure on your way to work, 4 a.m. Eastern time. The video on YouTube comes out at 6 a.m. Eastern. I know some of you like to even put on the video version while you're driving, but just listen. It's all there. It's all there every single morning. So check that out. All right. What does the lineup look like for Big Ten Media Days, and what will be some of the important topics weaved in by the media with their questions, some questions I want answers to. So I'm going to be listening and watching intently as well. We got all that coming up. It's next right here in a minute on Locked On Big Ten. FanDuel makes all sports better, right? We love sports. And in the summertime, it's a lot of baseball. That's where you need to be with FanDuel. All right. Lots going on. All you have to do is open up the app, dream up any bets. They're right there. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. I got some baseball here for you. Now, some of them might seem a little obvious. Those I want you to parlay. You get a higher payout if you get multiple games right, 2-3 team parlays. I like doing that. Like the O's over the Marlins. That's a layup. But pair it in with something else. Get a higher payout. Like the Mets and Mets and the Yankees. Stay away from that a little. Stay away from the Yankees for a few more days, maybe a week. Let's figure out where they are. They were hot first part of the season. Then they were horrible. Let's get them settled in post All-Star break before we figure that out. Phillies over the Twins and the Rangers over the White Sox. I like that as well. So check it out on FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. I want to thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, subscribe right on YouTube and share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And again, don't forget to check out our website, Talk Big 10, number 10. Don't spell it out. TalkBig10, number 10.com. All right. And the entire lineup for the Big Ten Media Days can all be seen on the Big Ten Network. If you want to check that out, if you're at work, you're going to miss it or what have you. Obviously, Tony Petitti is going to address everyone with the State of the Union, the State of the Conference, all that kind of stuff. A lot of questions we have there. Now, Tuesday's lineup, as far as the coaches are concerned, it'll feature Wisconsin coach Luke Fickell. He enters year 2 as head of the Badgers. Wisconsin has a pretty tough schedule, so I think it's going to be hard to gauge. I think they'll be improved. I just think it'll be hard to gauge the improvement given the difficulty of the schedule, which also includes Alabama at Camp Randall early in the season. So maybe they don't get more wins, but they're better. That's kind of where I'm driving at right there. We'll see. There'll be a lot of questions about the offense and, of course, their Miami transfer quarterback, Tyler Van Dyke. Fickle will be bringing along with him inside linebacker Jake Chaney, left tackle Jack Nelson, and safety Hunter Warler. So get a good look at those kids during the media days in Indy. Rutgers head coach Greg Schiano speaking on Tuesday. I think Rutgers, if you watch any of our previews, is going to be sneaky good this year. Plus, I think it's combined with a favorable schedule. I could see a big win total for Rutgers this year. The line at Vegas moved from 5.5 to 6.5. I think you can still take the over on it. It's going to be a big year for them. This is a team that won 7 games last year. And they got a guy like Kyle Monungai coming back. He'll be at media days, by the way. He's the defending rushing champion for the Big Ten. Also, linebackers Tyrene Powell and Mohamed Torre will be in Indianapolis as well. Illinois head coach Brett Bielema, he speaks on Tuesday. Seems like a pivotal year here for Bielema in Illinois. Fighting Illini, you have to admit one thing. Win or lose, they are entertaining. I'm a big fan of Luke Altmaier. The Fighting Illini are in a lot of close games, exciting games that go down to the wire, win or lose. Wide receiver Pat Bryant and linebacker Seth Coleman and Gabe Jacobs will join him as well. And also from Illinois Northwestern, Coach David Braun going to speak on Tuesday. What a story. Think about 1 year ago. All right, he just arrived at Northwestern to be an assistant coach, to be the defensive coordinator. All of a sudden, the hazing scandal blows up, coaching change. He gets thrown in as the interim head coach, then later named the head coach. He took a team that won 1 game the year before, was thrust into the scene here, and they won 8 games, including a bowl game. Obviously, he was the Big Ten Coach of the Year, so that's cool. He gets to come to this as the defending Coach of the Year of the Big Ten. Kind of a big deal. What are the expectations for this year? Can they keep it going? Do they take a step backward? So, and what will it be like to play most of your home games on campus in front of 15,000 fans sitting on bleachers because their stadium's being rebuilt? And by the way, we got a picture of what the new stadium setup is taking shape, what it will look like. We'll have it on Tuesday tweets in our next segment. But it'll be neat playing on campus. The crowds will be a lot smaller because they can only accommodate 15,000 fans. But right there on beautiful Lake Michigan, right on the shores. So it'll be kind of cool. He's going to be bringing A.J. Henning, one of the wide receivers, linebacker Xander Mueller, and running back Cam Porter to media days. Also on Tuesday, the head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes, Ryan Day, will be talking. Expectations are high for him. Very high. Through the ceiling high. I mean, thoughts of Big Ten and national championships this year. That's the expectation for Ohio State. And yet he'll get questions. Hey, you going to beat Michigan this year? Right? All day. All day. He's bringing corner Denzel Burke with him, wide receiver Emeka Egbuka, and defensive end Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer. That guy's going to go high in the draft. You watch. Very good football player. So those are the players that Ryan Day is bringing with him. Don't forget, Purdue coach Ryan Walters will speak on Tuesday, one of the 2 hometown coaches, if you will, just 90 minutes drive from West Lafayette to Indianapolis. He'll be there to talk about the Boilers. He's going into year 2. Tough schedule in front of the Boilers this year. So I told you, I don't know how that's going to go this year. He does bring with him quarterback Hudson Card, who's in year 2 after transferring from Texas. Also, center Gus Hartwig and linebacker Kedron Jenkins will be there. Wednesday will feature Iowa, Michigan State, Nebraska, Penn State, UCLA, and USC. We'll talk a bit more about them in tomorrow's podcast, kind of a preview of the day, if you will. Ditto for Thursday, the speakers, the coaches, the players from Indiana, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Oregon, and Washington. That's it. That's a lot of teams, right? 18 teams, a lot going on at the Big Ten Media Days. We'll have it all covered as we get ready for the season. Practice is around the corner and then the games. We're basically there. Season is basically here. Hey, do you watch TV talking heads on FS1, Fox Sports, ESPN in the daytime, but you get tired of all the yelling, turn the volume down, maybe even turn them off? I got another alternative for you. Switch to Locked On Sports Today. It's from our Locked On family here. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories with all of the screaming and nonsense, as I like to call it. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Tuesdays, we like to do Tuesday tweets. They're always fun. Follow us on Twitter at Talk Big Ten, and if you post something we like, we'll put it back out there and feature it here on the show. Like I said earlier, but the tone of the tweets, you can tell the season's coming. Tuesday tweets coming up next right here in a minute on Locked On Big Ten. All right, time for Tuesday tweets here on Locked On Big Ten. Let's check all these out. I'm going to put them on the screen. If you're audio only, no problem. I'll describe them as much as I can in detail. We'll go full screen with this. And let's see here. All right, this is from the Big Ten Network. And by the way, the Big Ten Network, again, I'll repeat, is carrying all the coaches' interviews and the media, all that from media days going on in Indianapolis. But this, they grabbed a 2024 preseason Big Ten poll. It was conducted by Cleveland.com. And it has Ohio State 1, Oregon 2, Penn State 3, Michigan 4, Iowa rounding out the top 5. Then Southern Cal, Wisconsin, and Nebraska. Rutgers and Washington rounding out the top 10, followed by Maryland, Minnesota, Illinois, Northwestern, and UCLA, and the bottom 3, Michigan State, Indiana, and Purdue. I like to take a look at various polls and rankings and like to pick them apart, but I got to tell you, I think this one's pretty spot on. You may or may flip Oregon and Ohio State 1, 2, maybe not. I would nudge up Nebraska ahead of Wisconsin. Otherwise, I like that. Bring Rutgers with them too. And as far as the bottom, maybe Indiana ahead of UCLA and Michigan State. Maybe. We'll see what Curt Cignetti does in his first year there as well. But anyway, that's it. That's the preseason ranking. There are many of them out there. We grabbed one of them because Big Ten Network put it out there this week. Here is from at PFF College. It is a picture of Sebastian Castro. It says he is elite. He is the best slot corner by a mile in college football. And he is going to be a big focal point of the Iowa Hawkeyes secondary. He was last year, but with Cooper DeJean grabbing all the headlines, Sebastian Castro pretty good as well. So they have him coming back. That's good news for the Hawkeyes. Here is a picture of J.J. McCarthy signing his contract. You Michigan fans, this is from at University of Michigan football. J.J. Payday got his contract signed just in the nick of time. Meanwhile, here is the jersey number 6 for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and it's from at Ohio State football, and it's telling you 6 more Saturdays till college football. Awesome. Hey, here's what I was talking about earlier. If you're watching on video, this is from at Barstool Big Ten. It is an overhead shot of Northwestern's new temporary stadium. It's taking shape. They got the bleachers in. They got a couple cranes out there still putting it together on the field. This is the old soccer and lacrosse field. They're going to put the football field here. And as you can see, the background is Lake Michigan right there. And then way off in the distance, the Chicago skyline. It's going to be cool. It's going to be quaint. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think, there at Northwestern until they get their stadium finished. 2 years, 2026, they'll move into their new stadium, which they tore down the old one, built a new one right on the same spot. Here is at Beaver Stadium. For your viewing experience, Beaver Stadium is getting better and better, as we've talked about here on this podcast. A $700 million renovation going on. Here's what it's going to look like, a rendition, if you will. Higher quality south video board, super ribbons in the south end zone, additional ribbons in the south end zone, and a new ribbon board in the north end zone. Those ribbons of color in between the sections there that you could put various sponsors and Penn State stuff up there and really make it feel awesome. Here is from at Wisconsin Badgers. It is a picture of Camp Randall. They are going to begin alcohol sales for the 2024 season. That's a big deal. Beginning of the season, Wisconsin Athletics will begin selling beer, wine, and prepackaged alcoholic products beverages in the general seating areas at Camp Randall Stadium and the Field House. How about that? Here we go. This is from at PFF College, the second one we posted here today. Leaders in winning percentage among active coaches throughout college football. Ryan Day, his picture is there because he's on top. Ohio State, 87.5%. This is exactly why I tell you it's ridiculous every time somebody wants to put him on a hot seat because he lost to Michigan. He's the winningest coach out there. 87.5%. He's ahead of Kirby Smart, who's at number 2 at 85.5. So you got some other. How about this? At number 4, this looks weird, right? With the Indiana logo on there. Curt Cignetti, of course, he did most of this at James Madison. An 82.6% winning percentage, but now he's with Indiana. Hadn't coached a game yet for Indiana, but I like seeing Indiana here in the top 4 leaders in winning percentage with their head coach. Dan Lanning right there at 5, just over 81%. Lincoln Riley at Southern Cal in there, above 80%. So, yeah, there's the list. This is all, but I just mentioned the Big Ten ones there. And here is one from at Barstool, Iowa. It is the number 40 jersey, superimposed over 40. That is because 40 days until Hawkeye football. This was a couple days ago, but yeah, you get the idea. We're closing in on it. Here's from at Go Blog, the greatest helmet in the country, #Go Blue. And it's the Michigan Wolverine helmet resting on some turf there, presumably at the Big House. I got to agree with you. Whether you love Michigan or whether you're a hater, that's a cool looking helmet. The wing, it's the wing, the maize, the blue. It's cool. I think it is the most iconic helmet in football. It really is. All right, so that's it for Tuesday tweets. Hope you enjoy that. Again, you can reach us at Twitter at TalkBig10, number 10, and tweet something out to us. We'll put it here on the podcast every Tuesday. We do this. Many ways for you to interact with us. Of course, I mentioned Twitter or X at TalkBig10. YouTube comments are always welcome. I especially love it when you rivals go at each other. That's fun. And we also have our website, TalkBig10, number 10.com. You can catch all of our podcasts. In fact, go back and catch another one after this one. We would love you to do that. It's grouped by schools and chronologically. You can see what else we've done this week, for example. You can also get your merchandise there as well. Get ready for the upcoming football season. Whatever you do, please subscribe before you go. Just click it. It's free, and you're subscribed. That's it. No other information is required from you. You can follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every morning, as I told you earlier. All right? That's awesome. And then when you're done with us, we still have friends from Locked On. They do Locked On Sports Today here for you 24/7, covering top sports stories of the day. The local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel when you're done subscribing and watching here. All right, we're going to do a deep dive into the Big Ten Media Days. Watch what everybody's going to say, previewing what's coming up. It's for the next 3 days. We're very excited about that. So tune in here for your home for all things Big Ten. That'll do it. Thank you for visiting us today, and I can't wait till we talk again tomorrow. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten. See you next time.